Hello, this is Denton Yoder, instructor for BSE 2304, the Biological Systems Engineering CAD class. This lesson right now is going to be about Paperspace. But to begin the discussion, I need something to use in Paperspace, so I'm going to xref attach in the baseball field, make a drawing, and then go into Paperspace, put in a border, zoom it to scale, put in a north arrow, graphic scale, all that type of thing. I'm actually even going to rotate a view, try to do a little bit of everything with Paperspace. Okay, jumping in, I'm going to do an xref, get my cursor in the screen, xref, and attach a drawing. And I have a baseball field. I'm going to just specify on screen where to put it and attach it. Okay, pick a spot, enter, enter. Okay, now I believe the directions on this were to put these things 50 feet apart. So I'm going to draw a line. I'm going to just go to the end point here, come down on a 45, and draw another one coming down on a 45. And I'm going to offset them 25 feet. And that way I have a spot to mirror across. So if I mirror this baseball field, someone offset MI for mirror, the baseball field, cross this line, and mirror the pair of them, cross this line, I now have 4 of them. Erase the lines out. Okay, so I've got 4 baseball fields. I'm ready to start my Paperspace. Okay, jumping into Paperspace, I need to have tabs at the bottom. I don't need to, but it's easiest if I have tabs on the bottom for the model and the layouts. If you don't have those, you can right-click in the command area and go to Options. On the Display tab, there's a button for displaying the layout tabs. Turn that off, it would go away. Anyway, Layout 1, Layout 2 are 2 different Paperspaces that are built in. That's a terrible name for it. I'm going to right-click on it and rename it. I like to name it either what the sheet number is or the size of the piece of paper. An example would be D size. When I click the D size, just naming it that did not make it a D size. It's still whatever the default was. Okay. I'm going to right-click and do a page setup manager, which will let me modify my D size. And instead of picking a printer, I'm going to pick a DWF6 E-plot and an architectural D size, which is a 36 by 24. You want to leave the scale 1:1. Tell it to print the layout. The plot style, pen styles are kind of up to you. I typically have a fixed pen style that is set up for my company. This is just blank or straight AutoCAD, so I'm just going to pick a monochrome, which means print black or grayscale. But I could change it to something else. We will learn later how to make our own plot style and set pen weights that way if we want. Okay, so the defaults work really good. It's a landscape, D size. Okay, that gives me a 36 by 24 piece of paper. This M view is wrong. I'm going to just get rid of it. Okay, so I'm in a drawing. Let's make some layers. LA for layer. I get layers from the xref that I attached, but I'm not going to use those. Well, you really shouldn't and can't, but I'm going to go ahead and say new layer. I want a border layer. I want a title block layer. I need an mview layer. At a minimum, you need a border and an mview layer. The mview layer is the layer that the rectangle mview that you're going to draw goes on. Color is not so important, but the important thing with the mview layer is to set it to a no print layer. Now the border, I'm going to make a green layer for the border, and the thing I'm going to do with the border layer is go with a line weight that is 1 millimeter, which is super heavy. And the title block, I don't care really about the color, but I'm going to put a 0.35 on the title block. And those are line weights. Now, close my layers, select the border layer, draw a rectangle. I need to stay inside the dashed line, which indicates the amount of space that can be printed on. If I turn on my line weights, it'll be 1 millimeter thick. We don't need to keep our line weights on, but that's what it's for. Now I'm going to put myself on the title block layer, and I made a block for the title block, so I'm going to insert and browse to my CAD tools folder, and I think I called it title block. And I'm going to specify it on screen, leave the scale at 1, okay, which I'm going to snap it to the corner. It's automatically going to be an 1/8 inch off the corner. And if I do DWG props, I get to fill in the title. And this is going to be, I don't know, sample Paperspace. And the subject is going to be Paperspace. And the author is going to be Denton Yoder. And the keyword is lesson number 3, or whatever lesson this happens to be when you take the class. Okay on that. RE for regen, and it fills in the title block. So that was our text in the title block being filled in from drawing properties. So a border is really an outline for your piece of paper with a legend that is labeled. For the classes, you'll need to always have at least your name, the date, and the lesson number to be turned in for your homework. Okay, jumping into it. An mview is a hole you cut into the piece of paper to see your drawing. Now, there's a cool toolbar for it, so I'm going to turn on the viewports toolbar. Put it right there. I'm just going to say, first I'll put myself on the mview layer so it's on the right layer. Give me an mview and put it right here. Now, if I were to type in plot, and I were to preview my plot, it's black and white because my pen style was set to monochrome. And it's got my border drawn thick, and you don't see the mview line because it's on a no plot layer. Okay, so if I change this back to a color one, apply that, preview, it would be color. You have control of all this stuff. Okay, I'm going to cancel out because I don't intend to plot this right now, but the next thing we need to talk about is scale. I'm going to make this mview a little bit smaller. Just going to use the grip edits to make it a little smaller. There are 2 modes that we have. We have a paper mode where the coordinates reflect our sheet size. And we have a model mode, which changes the name to model, which reflects the coordinates of the drawing we're working in. If I zoom extents, what I'm doing with that zoom is changing the scale of the drawing. You can also pull the scale down from the layout toolbar. The scales in here really stink though, because they're all architectural, which I don't know why they're architectural in a civil template drawing, but whatever. We can change that if we want. Or we can actually just type the scale we want. If I type in 1:50, I get 50 scale. If I type in 1:100, I get 100 scale. If I want a 20 scale, 1:20. And that's 20 scale. You can zoom around without changing the scale, or pan around, I should say. But zooming will affect the scale. Now, other things I can do. Let's say I have a line in here that's on a 45 degrees. I like to do the UCS command with the object option to snap to anything I've drawn. I don't need to keep the line if I don't want, or I could have left it because it was on the mview layer and you'd never see it. Once my cursor has been rotated to the coordinate system I want, I can type in plan and enter, and it will rotate the view only. Now it's important to note that the model stays correct. The only thing I rotated was the view, how you look at it. Then, once you're done rotating the view, you can type UCS back to world, and your coordinates, your X and Y coordinates, will stay normal and correct while the view of it is turned. This is the way we will rotate things in Paperspace to print them. We do not physically do the rotate command on our objects because that would change the coordinates where those objects are located. So the way I did this was I drew an object that I wanted to make horizontal. I did the UCS object on that object, and then I typed in plan to make that plan readable, and then I can put my UCS back to world when I'm done. Okay, so that's how we rotate things and change the orientation, which means when I zoom in on this, I can isolate just one of my quartz. And if I don't quite get it, I can double click outside to be in Paperspace, and I can adjust my Paperspace view. What scale is that? Well, I don't know what scale that is. Double click in here. It says it's 0.0384. That doesn't work. Scales, if you look at your graphical scale, which I'll bring one to class, I have a 10 scale, a 20, a 30, a 40, a 50, a 60. Those are the only scales I have. 10 through 60, which means if you do any other scale, I can't measure it with a ruler. I'll also bring some metric scales in for you to look at, but they're also going to be even. So we need to choose a scale. Zooming sets the scale. You can either zoom using the toolbar, or you can actually zoom in the model mode there. I'm going to do a zoom, and the zoom command to change the scale or to set the scale is to do 1/ your scale factor, which I'm going to type in 50 XP. That goes to 50 scale. I'm going to hit enter, 1/30 XP. Bam, that's 30 scale. Zoom again, 1/20 XP. That's 20 scale. I like 20 scale, but my mview is not big enough. Well, I'm going to move my mview up a little bit, grab the bottom corner of it and make it a little bigger. Grab the top edge, make it a little bigger. I like that much better. Escape out of that. An mview is just an object. I can I can copy an M view and just put it somewhere else. Resize it. It's kind of crazy. Erase it. Yeah. I've shown so far rectangular M views. You can make an M view out of any irregular shape. I'm going to do a polyline and do some kind of a zigzaggedy shape. I don't know why I'm doing that, but close. So it's a polyline, which is a closed boundary. M view. O for object. And click it. And that is now my M view boundary. Cool, huh? Okay, I'm going to erase that. I'm going to draw 3 circles. A circle, another circle, another circle. Oh, might as well make another one. Yeah, I've got a bunch of circles. I'm going to do a command called region. R-E-G is region. I'm going to make these 4 circles regions. I'm going to union these 4 circles to make them all one object. Now I can M view object. Bam. Okay, so anything I make can be turned into an M view. Okay. Paperspace, erase the object. One other thing I want to talk about is if I go back to the Model tab, what did I make this scale? 20 or 30? I don't remember. Double click inside, 20. Okay, so I made it 20 scale. I can also list my MView object, and it'll tell me what scale factor it's at, which that's 1/20th XP. Okay, so I know 20 scale is the scale I intend to print this. Okay, I'm going to go into layers, and I'm going to put a north arrow on here, but I'm going to do a couple different north arrows. I'm going to do a new layer, and I'm going to call it 20 text. And I'm going to make a 200 text. Okay. And I was on mviews, so it copied the properties. Okay. I've got a, oh, I made it 10. Let me change that. 20 text. I got a 20 text and a 200 text. Okay. So, if I'm in here on this drawing, I could insert, browse, and grab a north arrow, and I'm putting it right there, and that is not going to work. It's too small. But if when I inserted it, I would have said specify the scale on screen, or set it to 20, I would have gotten a bigger one, and that would be fine. Okay, so that's a 20 scale north arrow. I put it on the MView layer. That's totally wrong. That needs to go on the 20 scale layer. If I put anything on the MView layer, it's not going to print. Okay, now if I wanted to put another north arrow in here, I could do one on the 200 layer, insert, and I'm going to do a 200 scale, and it's going to be big. Okay, you're with me, right? Let's look at our drawing. If I go to the D size, the 20 scale is right there. It's just fine, but it's off the screen. Well, I can move it, but what if, let's get back out of this, what if this other one were closer? What would that look like? Oh, it got in my drawing. Or what if I made another M view, mview. And let me put that mview on layer mview. And what if the scale in this one is 1 to 200? Okay, so I have two mviews of the ball field, one at 20 scale, one at 200 scale. On my 20 scale one, I don't want to see the 200 scale. On my 200 scale one, I don't want to see the 20 scale stuff. Layers are super cool. I'm going to go into the model of the 20 scale and type in layer. It says, well now, you have some new tools. You have viewport freeze is the main one I want to look at. So I'm checked in the 20 scale mview. I want to viewport freeze the 200 scale. And then when I click in the 200 scale layers, I want to viewport freeze the 20 scale. So the little one's gone now. So what we're seeing is that layers are independent to some extent in each mview. So each mview will keep separate track of the viewport freeze. You can also change colors and line types in the different viewports. So you can force things to be proposed in one view and be bright, and be a thin dark line as existing in a second mview. So that's your choice. Okay, so we've talked about Paperspace. We've talked about a layout, which is this D-size thing. We've sized the layout. We did mviews. We talked about scale and the scale toolbar. We talked about zooming to set the scale. We've talked about having multiple mviews and the VP freeze. We've talked about turning the orientation with the UCS command. And I will note that in my 20 scale, I'm turned 45 degrees. In my 200 scale, north is vertical. So I've got different north orientations in each mview as well. That was with the UCS command and the plan command. You always want to set your UCS back to world when you're done. I think that's it. That's all I want to talk about for Paperspace. Have a good one. Bye.